Today we are in the workshop of Aram Sharambeyan, which is called Aramara, surrounded by this beautiful furniture, of which you are the producer, decorator, designer, creator. Yes?
Yeah, more or less.
More or less. All the adjectives we can find. How is it that you began designing, producing these really creative pieces of, I would call them artwork more than furniture?
Well, the thing is that I've been in crafts since my high school years. That's when I started doing jewelry. And not only jewelry, but metalwork in general, like bronze. Also, we were working with bronze and other metals. So my prime education, if you want, my major education is in crafts, is in jewelry.
It was self-taught? I mean, when you say high school, you started experimenting with it?
No, it wasn't experimenting. My father, who was really well known and is still known in the crafts world quite well, he made the match. He sent me as an apprentice to my varpet. Yeah.
I love that word.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot change it. You cannot translate it.
Yeah,
I mean,
some
meaning is gone. So where I started doing jewelry when I was about 15 years old, about 16 years old.
Is that what you wanted to do? Did you, or was it your father's directed?
No, not really. I mean, he was thinking about just giving me some education, some profession, if you want, which will enable me to take care of myself and my family later on. I mean, as a secondary something, which turned to be the major thing that I did in my life, and I'm still doing it with great pleasure. I consider it as whatever I'm doing today is the continuation of that jewelry education. I just changed the material, that's all. Yeah.
You went from small to very big.
The scale, yeah, I agree completely. Right. Yeah, the scale and the material. Otherwise, I'm still in crafts. I'm still enjoying it, and I cannot imagine doing anything else. But I think that my ability to combine creativity with accounting, if you want.
Business activity.
Yes, that comes from my ancestors.
From the Vaneti side.
I think yes.
And that's also something they're known for, yes?
Exactly. You know, they know how to make money.
Good.
I would say saving is like an extra thing which was added later on, but I think that's more important that they were able to make it.
But your father's training or education was in the arts. He was an artist.
He was an artist.
Very well known. And first time I went, not the first time, but I've been to Dilijan many times. It's one of my most favorite cities in the country. There's a street called Sharambeyan. And I'd heard of you at that time, of course, because of Sharan Crafts, but we'll get to that later. So how is it that there's a street that's named after your family?
Well, he was very much in preservation of Armenian culture, which included also, let's call it vernacular architecture.
Vernacular architecture?
Yeah. Vernacular meaning it's not made by a professional architect, but just the way people build. And it took him about 25 years to realize that idea. I mean, from conception until actual construction, it took him about 25 years, and I don't know how much nerves and
energy
and blood, whatever. But in 1980s, they started to renovate a street which he particularly liked in Dilijan. It was basically, it was rebuilt.
From the ground up, with his own vision?
Yes, with a lot of his input. There wasn't, of course, he wasn't an architect, so a professional architect was hired and everything like it's supposed to be, but under his guidance, with his okaying of what was done. Unfortunately, with his death in '86, everything stopped.
He died quite young, your father.
Not even 60 years old, yeah. That year he was going to turn 60. So everything stopped and very erratic activity was going on over there. Like a wood carver was just sitting there because he didn't have any other place and carving his small stuff as if a museum was there, but really it wasn't open for public. So it wasn't really kept well.
After his death.
After his death, the idea of it was turning it into a craft street.
Right. Which it has become today, in a way. And I just want to recount my experience with you and Dilijan. I was there with two of my girlfriends who shall remain nameless. But we had decided to take a break from Yerevan and all the craziness in our lives, and we wanted to spend a couple of days in Dilijan. So on our way there, we stopped off at a restaurant, got ourselves a bottle of vodka, and carried it, and we said, oh, well, Aram lives here, let's go check out his new house. I don't know if it's new, but anyway, so we arrived to your property in Dilijan. It's beautiful, beautiful home that you've created and built and produced. Yes. And you had two huge Armenian gumpers, dogs, these big, and I'm terrified of dogs. I remember hiding behind one of my girlfriends, but so you've kind of sort of returned back to where your father and your mother met, where you spent your childhood, where you spent your vacations, and you've created an existence for yourself there that's sort of split between Yerevan and Dilijan, I'm assuming here. Why did you feel the need to do that?
Well, you know, as most of important things in my life, it happened by accident. The idea was to move out of the apartment that I live in Yerevan. Okay. I was just tired of living in an apartment and wanted a private house. So I started looking for a parcel of land.
In Yerevan?
In Yerevan, yeah. So, and whatever was available was not quite what I was looking for, just because it was not a need. It was more like, I have a nice apartment, it's big enough, it's in a good location, everything is correct. So I didn't have to have a private house. So I wanted something nice. Sure. You know, so, and I couldn't find an appropriate land.
Well, it would be hard in Yerevan to find.
Yeah, with all the neighborhood and this and that, it's really very hard. I have much more privacy in my apartment rather than in any private houses that are around Yerevan. Sure. So I started moving further and further and further. Huh?
You went pretty far. Yeah. You know, through Lake Sevan, through a tunnel.
So whenever they showed me that land, not even that particular parcel, just one neighboring it, and I saw it from like the mountain across the river. Okay. They showed, they said there's a good land, in that area. I said, I want it. I want it. That's it. You don't want to see? Well,
if necessary.
If necessary, but I'm ready to close the deal. So that's how I got that land.
Well, I assume, Aram, knowing you, that as a perfectionist, you would want to make sure that it's perfect in every way, solid.
Yes.
Like the
yes. Yeah. It's just because this is not a summer house. Right. This is not something like a cheap construction. I just really wanted to try myself in something new, which is construction, well, architecture. And I wanted it to be really a nice place which will be enjoyed by my friends and my family. So this is not for only my family, this is not only for me, this is for everybody. I mean, without that, it was built from inside out. Yeah. I built whatever was necessary for us to feel good inside.
And that's the most important thing. People, we always, as Armenians too, in Armenia and the diaspora, we're always concerned with the facade, with the outside, but never about the inside. So what you're saying to me is very interesting, that you build from the inside out, and that's the most important part, is what's inside.
Yeah, we made it convenient, first of all for living, and then only for others to enjoy, if you want so. Which is not so uncommon here. Used to be not that uncommon, that from facade you would never guess what's inside. In Soviet era, it was necessary not to show off your wealth.
Yeah, you had to be careful.
You had to be careful. But, you know, as they say that doctors bury their mistakes, architects cover it with plants. So now after these years, like 5-6 years, yeah, the vine went up the building, you know, now it's nice.
Who knows what's behind the vine?
Yeah, it looks really nice.
It's so interesting for me. At a time when the country's collapsing, well, the Soviet Union has collapsed, Armenia has gained independence, still embroiled in a war. You had to buy wheat so your wife could ground to make bread, and here you were selling Armenian art and craft and culture to the world. I mean, if you look back on it now, I think it's kind of how audacious of you to think that you could do that.
I never thought of it. You know, if I would be thinking, I would never do that. Right. First of all, I never looked at it as business, because only crazy people could think of finding some business in this. At that time, especially at that time, I had to do it. It came so naturally. I mean, it wasn't a decision, a result of a decision making. No, it was just
a series of events that led you on that path.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's amazing. And then from that, you also started producing children's clothing, knitwear.
Yes,
it developed
into it. It was already, I mean, it was a reaction to the market. Right. We started more with wood, like carved necklaces, and really adorable and highest quality things, but the price was, of course, prohibitive for the market, for reselling. I mean, I'm not selling to individuals, right. I'm selling it wholesale. So because of that, we adapted and we just followed the market, and we found our niche in children's clothing.
You know, you start with jewelry when you're 15 because your father thinks you need something as a backup plan. Yeah. And then you move on to woodwork, arts and crafts, children's clothing, and then you get bigger. And now we're sitting in this beautiful, I don't know what to call it. It's like a workshop, but it's also a design studio, somewhere where you're creating and producing these beautiful pieces of furniture that we're sitting in the middle of. So where's the next step for Aram Sharambeyan? Where do you go from here?
Just continuing to develop the same idea, which is putting Armenian, if you want, culture, aesthetics on an international level and making it a really highest available quality. Now we're working on, when I say we, I have a very nice counterpart, highest professional and with impeccable taste, a person with impeccable taste, Armen Kürkcan, who is designing. Like, we want it to be recognized in terms like when you see something, you don't necessarily know who made it, where it was made. You can say, oh, it's Japanese. Right. Oh, this is African. This looks Mexican. You know, this looks Indian. There's no such thing as Armenian, you know, especially in your interior.
I think that's spectacular. It's about branding Armenian culture
Exactly.
to a global audience,
Exactly.
to a global market.
Yes.
And it is possible to do. We can break down those barriers that we have in our minds, those borders that we have in our minds because we're so small as a people. But being small, you can explode onto the international scene.
I don't think about possibilities. I just do it.
You just do it.
You know, if I would think that to enter to like this highest end stores in America, I would never do that.
Yeah. It's still, yeah, you think, when you think back.
But I did it.
Yeah. So it is possible.
So it's possible. Everything is possible. I mean, why limit yourself with, okay, I can go this far. I don't know where we can go, how far we can go. It's just because the task is enormous. And in today's Armenia, it's very hard to do just because the market is tiny.
Yeah.
We cannot make too many mistakes, you know. We have to make something to sell to, at least to revolve the fund, which is very tiny, again.
Limited, yeah.
Very, very limited. So it's very hard to do the things. It's because the style includes everything. It's not only furniture, it's not only home furnishings, it's everything. A lot of stuff goes into it. Even the furniture, you have to start with the handles.
Yeah.
Like bronze handles, I don't know this, and then cast that. Just imagine how much efforts and resources have to go into this. I hope that more people will join us. We will be able at least to show some results to other people to say, hey, look,
Well,
this is it.
I think you already have results, and I think that the scope of possibilities is endless. And you're right, we have to stop overthinking, and we just have to do it. Move on and give free rein to our imagination and do it. Well,
Otherwise.
yeah, it was a real pleasure to meet you, and to meet, not for the first time, obviously, we've met before, as I said, but to be in your space where you do all of your creating. So, and
Thank you.
I hope 10 years, 20 years from now, we'll meet again here, and we'll see what you've created in your mind and what you've actually made with your hands.
With hands, very little. Because unfortunately I'm not such a good craftsperson myself. My hands are not good enough. This is not only a nice thing to make. This has a lot to do with our identity. This has a lot to do with how you live, in what environment you live, and
how you want to live.
And how you want to live, yeah, and what influences your daily activities. So, and that's first of all for me is interior of your house, of your dwelling space, and so it's really it has a bigger connotation, if you want, what we're trying to do, and that's absolutely worth all the efforts and all the resources we can allocate to it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wish you much success, and I'm sure.
Which I need.
I don't think so. I think you've got the right formula. I think you, and hopefully be inspiring a new generation.
Thank you.
Thanks.